Okay, hey everyone, so I already made a video on this tutorial to install this AliExpress HDMI mod for the Nintendo 64. However, it was a little long, and so I decided to make a new video where I cut out a bunch of the extra stuff. So there's a lot less explaining in this video, and also I cut out most of the cleaning that we did in the original video. So yeah, I guess maybe this could be for more advanced modders, but I still try to explain the most important parts in detail. So yeah, hopefully this is just a bit easier to use, and if you do need more explanation, then yeah, go ahead and check out the longer video. But yeah, anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the original video. Hey everyone, so this is a pretty cool video I'm going to do today. So this is going to be an HDMI mod for the Nintendo 64. And specifically, it's a mod that I found on AliExpress, of all places. It only costs about $40, whereas the N64 Digital that I installed, if you saw that video, although it wasn't Spanish, so maybe you didn't see it, but that mod costs, with shipping and everything, $226 about. So yeah, this is significantly less expensive with just $40. So I'm very curious to see what the installation process will be like, and yeah, and just the general quality. The mod process is similar, fairly similar to the N64 Digital that I did. But yeah, just right off the bat, I can tell this chip isn't as complicated as the N64 Digital for sure. This ribbon cable actually looks very similar to the N64 Digital ribbon cable, although I will say that this one feels a bit more flimsy, doesn't feel as high quality. Yeah, anyway, oh, and then it also comes with, this is something that I like about this that the N64 Digital didn't come with. It comes with this mini HDMI to full-size HDMI adapter. Cool. So now, let's go over some of the supplies we'll be using. I'll leave links for this stuff in the description too. Yeah, I'll try to find as much of this stuff as I can. Put it in the description. So first off, we have this Hakko soldering station. You can see here's half of it and here's the other half. The Hakko soldering station, it comes with this standard pin. It's a little fatter. For this fine work, I actually ended up getting some of this Shine Now, one of these kits. This made work a lot easier. So yeah, just using this very fine tip really made a difference. But I'm going to actually change the tips right now, so yeah, just unscrew this a little bit further, yeah, and this just comes off just like that, and then you just pull this tip off carefully, and you put the new one on, because yeah, once this heats up, it takes a while to cool down again, and so yeah, I'm going to change it right now before I forget. That's all it takes. We'll also need something to take apart the Nintendo 64, so I have these game bit screwdrivers. And again, I'll leave links to this stuff in the description too, although this I just bought at the dollar store. This is just something to hold it, so, but I'll leave a link for another one that I think looks pretty good. Yeah, and then also you need some sort of razor, because on the back here we're going to be cutting a small little slot underneath the multi-out port, and that's where the mini HDMI is going to go. I also have these files here that we'll be using to cut down the plastic. When you're cutting out the plastic, there's a ton of plastic shavings that come, and so just having some compressed air, or this is a really nice thing because you just charge it and then it blows out air. Yeah, and then you'll also need a screwdriver set for inside, because inside of the N64 you have just Phillips screws, and then you'll also need a multimeter. So there's also these tweezers. These are helpful. And then also we'll probably be doing a little bit of cleaning, so got some Q-tips, and then this 99.9% isopropyl alcohol. I also found it useful to have an X-Acto knife last time, just to kind of move fine stuff around. And then you have the leaded solder, so this is very important to have. This is kind of optional, but I do have this desoldering wick, and then there's also this No Clean paste flux. I also have this No Clean pen, so this is just liquid flux. This was actually very, very useful last time. I'll probably just use this over this. So yeah, this is a very useful product. And then this is also for desoldering. So you just put this on wherever you're going to desolder, and then yeah, you heat up the solder and then it sucks it up. I actually ended up not using this last time just because I had this pen, but if you want to, you can get a huge bottle of liquid flux. Oh, look at that. So to say flux, it's fundente líquido. Huh. That's interesting. I didn't know how to say that in Spanish in the other video. So that's good to know. Fundente. Learned a new word. So to take apart the Nintendo 64, it's pretty simple. All you gotta do is just take out, I think there's 6 screws on the back here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. And oh, and actually, before I forget to, it's a good idea to take out the jumper pack here. So yeah, I actually have a tool to take this out, but I don't know where I put it, so I'll just use the the little case. But you can also use like a kitchen knife if you're careful, and yeah, just something to get it under here to kind of, yeah, there we go, get that to come out. Oh, and by the way, I should also mention that this mod will work with any version of the Nintendo 64. Yeah, anyway, I'll pause the video while I take out these 6 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, there we go. I loosened all these screws, and I actually already took 2 out. I just wanted to show you this little trick. So if you do have a magnetized screwdriver, it kind of makes it nice. This is one my dad gave me. But yeah, you can just put it on there, and then it just pulls the screws right out. Oh, and then also it should be mentioned that these little feet just come off, so yeah, just goes in a safe place. Yeah, and all these screws are the same size too, by the way, so you don't have to worry about them, getting mixed up. Great, yeah, and then with that, we can flip it back over, and then it'll should just pop right off. Kind of pry it just a tiny bit, but yeah, there we go. Alright, so now just looking in here, this console actually does look pretty dusty, so yeah, we'll probably be doing a bit of a cleaning here too. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some of these Q-tips here with the isopropyl alcohol. I'm just going to go around here and just clean off some of this dust and see all that nasty stuff that's coming off here. Okay, there we go. Got it cleaned up a little bit more. Ended up using a paper towel to get some of this stuff on here because there was just a ton of dust. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our screwdriver here and we're just going to unscrew some of these screws. You can take out all the screws if you want, but I'm just going to be doing a little bit of a shortcut, I guess. That's what, yeah, worked for me before, so I'll just do it again. And then when I take these screws out too, what I'll do is I'll put in these screws on the market side, put in up here, stay. Like in the same order that I take them out. Just remember where to go. Yeah, so anyway, so I'm going to oh, take out these screws on the back multiple ports. I guess I'm supposed to screws this. Screws together. Okay, so that one. And then these two are a little longer than the other ones. There's another slight tip. I'm going in there, so put that right there. So that works tighter. So yeah, just like that. And right there, and just one down here. And just there. There we go. Alright, keep that one out. Yeah, most of these screws are the same size. Okay, and then we also need to take out the multi-port screws. Yeah, these are really low because they're silver. So gold code. Go, those are right there. Okay, and then we need to take out these two that have self-fastening mechanism on the bottom. You can see that, so self-fastening wheels, that's the way to go. Okay, so I'll just screw here from the bottom middle. Okay. And then for this memory pack screws, we actually need a smaller screwdriver. Maybe that's screwdriver. Yeah, my tools is really quite tight. Let's see. Alright, let's take out those two screws there. See if something's got a little more. There we go. Alright, I'll just put these down. Let's go. Okay, and then on this memory card or expansion pack slot, there actually is a little piece of plastic or metal here that just comes off. When we take off the heat sink, this can just fly off if you're not careful, so I think it's better just to take it off before so that it doesn't fly somewhere. Okay, so now we should be able to take this out here. Oh, that's right, we have to take out the screws on the power supply as well. Okay, now we should be good to just take this off. Oh, I missed a screw right there. It was kind of hidden. So yeah, if it doesn't come off right away, then don't force it. I found that almost like 99% of the time, well, maybe not 99, but say like 70% of the time, if it doesn't come off easily, just in general for electronics, then it's because you missed a screw somewhere. Sometimes it's just a hard thing to take off, but yeah, see, now it comes right up. Okay, there you go. So there's the actual Nintendo 64. Yeah, and you can see how dirty this plastic is, so we'll take this and wash it off with soap and water. So now this part, this is the part that's a little tricky because this isn't screwed down anymore. However, it's not just going to come off because there's the thermal paste on the motherboard. So what you want to do is just very carefully just kind of push it up just a little bit, just like that. Just kind of pry it up just a tiny bit. Yeah, it's a little tricky, but there we go. Yeah, just do it very slowly and it'll come right off. There you go. So yeah, there you can see the thermal paste. So usually if you take out all these screws, then these blocks will just be left on there. However, I don't know. If you don't want to take out all the screws, then you can just do what I just did. So yeah, anyway. Alright, so now I'm going to put this over to the side. So yeah, I can already tell this looks different than the motherboard that I was doing before. And yeah, and we can see here it's version 4. So yeah, under here it actually is a little dusty. So before we get started, just to have everything clean, I'm going to take another Q-tip and just kind of clean some of this dust off of here real quick. Oh, and obviously I'm going to use the alcohol as well. So yeah, anyway, just kind of pause that while I clean this. Oh, and I just thought this was kind of funny as I was cleaning this. There's actually, you can see right there, yeah, more mealworm shells. So I don't know what it is about mealworms and Nintendo 64, or maybe just electronics in general, but yeah, if you remember the video I did where I cleaned the Nintendo 64 controller, there was also mealworm shells in there. So anyway, I just thought I'd show that just because it's kind of funny. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to keep on cleaning out all this nasty stuff. Yeah, and actually looking at it, there's so much dust on here that I'm picking off. I think this is probably a good time to use the air gun. So I'm just going to blow all this off. There we go. I accidentally blew off some of the screws. I'll have to pick that up. Anyway, now I'll go around and just do some of the fine stuff that I wasn't able to get. Like, looks like there's some spider webs or something over here. This is where we'll actually be installing the flex cable. So yeah, I'm just gonna make sure this is especially clean. It's because we'll be adding new connections there. Okay, so now let's actually install the ribbon cable. So when you do this, make sure you're not doing it on carpet or something that could have static electricity. Make sure you're doing it on like a piece of wood or like some plastic, or something like that. Just because, yeah, any static electricity can be fatal for your Nintendo 64. So yeah, just avoid that. Just avoid that static electricity. Okay. Okay, so setting up our soldering station, we already changed the tip on the iron to the fine one, and then we're gonna add some water to this sponge bay. Pour some water in here real quick. That'll be for cleaning our iron. Yeah, and then let's turn on our iron. I don't remember what temperature I had it at before. Let's see. Yeah, the nice thing about this Hakko is that it heats up really quickly. Yeah, and it's really easy to see what temperature you're at. So it looks like I had it set to 700, which is probably okay for what we're doing today. Especially with this smaller tip, I feel like you have to have a bit of a higher temperature just to have it heat up all the way to the end. Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to talk about the orientation of the Nintendo 64 when we're doing this mod. So I like to have it kind of on its side here with the AV port facing down towards me. Makes it easy to access the chip we'll be working on. And yeah, this is the chip we'll be working on, the one with the red circle around it. And then specifically we're working on the pins that are in the blue circle, and I'll show that here in just a second as well. And then when we're all done with the mod, this is what it'll look like with the HDMI installed and with the ribbon cable and everything. And then here's a picture of it just on its side again. So yeah, and then after all the connections are made, so yeah, so go ahead and orient your 64 like this, and let's get started with the ribbon cable. Okay, alright, let's just take a look at this. Actually, looks like my iron is a little dirty, so I'm just gonna clean it off real quick over here with this water, just like that. And then there's also this. So yeah, this is good for getting off old solder and stuff. Yeah, it looks a little better. Yeah, because on this mod, really it's like hardly any solder at all you want to use. These pins are so small. They look bigger in the magnifying glass, but let's grab our no clean flex. We're using that big bottle or the gel stuff, where I'm going to be using this pen here, just because it's easy to get a little bit of out, glue it out. So yeah, how this pen works is you push it down. Oh, you can't see. So you push it down on something, and then a little bit of flux comes out. So just push that down a little bit, just to get a little bit of flux there flowing. Yeah, just kind of run it across here a little bit. So yeah, just get a little bit of flux on there, just like that. So yeah, so the flux just helps the solder to flow a lot better, especially if it's this older solder that's, you know, been on here for, what, like 25 years, whatever, however long the 64's been out. Alright, so the trick is you want to install this ribbon cable starting from pin 6 to pin 25. And so yeah, if we just count here, and this is where something small and sharp comes in handy. So let me grab that X-Acto knife real quick. I'm not going to cut anything, I just want something to be able to count these pins with. So, oh, looks like there's still a few pieces of dust. When you're looking at through the microscope, you can really see stuff a lot better, that's for sure. Oh, call it a microscope again. The magnifying glass. Okay, so anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so here's number 6 right here. So yeah, so from 6 all the way to 25 is where we'll be installing this ribbon cable. What I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to grab a tiny bit of fresh solder. Let's see, where's my end here? Oh, here it is. So yeah, here I have my leaded solder. So I'm just going to break off a little piece here. So yeah, I'm just going to put a very tiny bit on the tip of my iron. Yeah, I'm just going to put a tiny bit on here. Yeah, and actually I'm going to do it kind of away from the motherboard, because sometimes this stuff spills down. I don't want little drops of solder on the board. So yeah, I'm just going to grab a tiny bit. Yeah, and this solder actually has flux inside of it too, so that's why there's some smoke that's coming off. Okay, there you go. See, I don't know if that's showing up, but yeah, I just got a very tiny bit on my soldering iron. So yeah, so that should be enough to actually not only just pin it down, but actually do a good connection. Yeah, it's really hardly any solder that is used here. Yeah, and you want to line it, you want to have it on where, kind of where the solder is on the bottom of the feet. Yeah, I want to get this lined up perfectly, because it's like the same measure twice, cut once. So yeah, measure 20 times, solder once. Okay, there that go. You can hear that, the flux. Let me put the heat on it. Wow, it's also a kind of potent one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Move this over just a tiny bit to line these up perfectly. Okay. of that went in there. Yep. Okay, cool. So now it's tacked down there on 6. And let's also do 25 just to have a secure connection. Okay, so let's just put a little bit on 25 here. Yeah, so nice and slow. Okay, so now 25 should be pinned down. Alright, cool. So now I don't have to hold it and then have my wiggly fingers. Alright, so from now on it should be a little bit easier. So yeah, you can see even just that little bit of solder was almost enough for both of those pins. I'll probably put a little bit more on 25. Or maybe I'll just even heat it up a little bit. But yeah, really it's like almost nothing that you're putting on here. It's a lot more than, or a lot less than what you would think, so. Yeah, and see, that's exactly why I didn't want to do this directly over the motherboard, because then, see, there's a piece of solder that fell down there in the magnifying glass. So yeah, you don't want straight pieces of metal or solder on your board because that can cause shorts. And then I'm actually going to add a bit more flux here on the top of the ribbon cable. Just to, yeah, have that on the top there. Help the solder flow better. Okay. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to go along each one of these pins and just tack each one down. Just as long as each one is connected and there's no bridges, we'll be okay. So, alright, there's that one. Yeah, just going to go along each one of these. Yep. Okay, looks like we need a little bit more solder now. Yeah, just a tiny, tiny bit. Yeah, and if we do get any bridges, it's not the end of the world. Okay. Alright, this is so far going pretty smoothly. Yeah, so like on the N64Digital, there was the PixelFX one, there was one of these pins that was 3.5 volts, but the ribbon cable actually didn't draw any energy from it. But all these 3.5 pins on this chip are connected anyway, so. Okay, so now I have some solder on here, and actually it's probably a good time to clean up my iron anyway, but yeah, the solder wasn't quite on the tip, so I'm gonna put some more solder on there and yeah, clean it off first. Yeah, it's a good idea to clean off your tip every once in a while. I think that helps it be hotter when you're applying the solder. Yeah, and that's the trick, is just to take your time. Apply a tiny bit more on here. I'm kind of thinking, since it's like slightly to the right, but it's still covering the pins. Probably should have just moved it a little bit to the left, but I think this will be okay. Alright, so I think I've got most of these pinned down. There's a few of them that maybe could use a bit more solder, so I'll kind of go over a few more, and then we'll test with the multimeter to make sure that there's no connections between the pins. And yeah, so I'm going to pause the video real quick while I just kind of touch this up a bit. Okay, there we go. I went over that a bit more, and yeah, just made sure there was no solder on there. Yeah, looks like there's no pins that are bridged there. But now, just to be sure, we're going to take our multimeter. So yeah, so here's the multimeter. So I want to have this in continuity setting. So I'm going to turn it down here to this symbol. And then I'm going to turn it on. Oh, and by the way, you want to have this plugged into, so the black needs to be in COM, and then the red needs to be in this V ohm milliamp, whatever, just not into the 10A DC port. But yeah, then when you put two pieces of metal together, then yeah, it shows if they're connected or not. Whereas, you know, obviously this isn't metal, but you know, if we put it here, then it's not going to show us connected. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. So we're going to test each one of these pins, make sure that there's no bridges between adjacent pins. So again, I'm just looking at these numbers on the multimeter. I'm just going to make sure that none of them say they're connected here. So first I'm going to start with this one on the side, and then I'm going to do this one. And nope, that's coming up as reading as a 1. So let's do these two. Okay, that's coming up as a 5. 5 is fine, just as long as it's not 0, because I mean, some of these, they'll be connected through other components, so it doesn't have to be a perfect 0 to be not connected. But yeah, we're just going to go across all of these. Just make sure none of them are showing as being connected. See, that one's a 300, that one's a 500 about. Yeah, just as long as none of them are 0, we should be good. And visually looking at it, it looks like they're all, none of them are bridged. I was actually kind of thinking of doing a bridge on purpose just to show you how to fix it. But yeah, if you can avoid bridges, it's probably better. I'll probably still try to show you without actually doing a bridge. I'll show you how to fix it if you do get a bridge. Because yeah, if you saw the other video I did, I had a lot of bridges when I was using that unleaded solder. So yeah, this leaded stuff is way nicer, so yeah, I definitely recommend it. If you're going to do either the PixelFX install or this one. Okay, and that should be the last one with pin 25 and then this other pin over here. Alright, great. So yeah, so we didn't have any bridges, so that's good. Cool. Alright, so anyway, yeah, so if you do have any bridges on here, what you want to do to fix it is, well, first off, you want to put on more flux. Okay, so you want to grab your flux pen or whatever you're using, put on some more flux, and then make sure you clean off your soldering iron. You can hear me doing that in the water. Make sure it's completely clean. And then what you'd want to do is just kind of go along here and just like move, like even just like going across here and trying to like move some of the solder from the bottom to the top and just kind of going up and down. That's a good way to break up the bridge. Either that, or you can, you know, move, like just heat it up a little bit, get some on your soldering iron, and then take it away, clean it off, do it again, take it away, clean it off, and just keep on doing that until there's not a bridge. And just remember to keep adding flux every once in a while to make sure you have that solder flowing pretty nicely. Yeah, and then like I said, you know, so like if you have a ton of solder down here, you can actually just kind of move your soldering iron up the pin and yeah, just kind of distribute some of the solder up to the top of the pin, or at least pretty close to the top, and that can, yeah, usually break the bridge as well. Or what you can do is you can grab some of this, so yeah, this desoldering wick. I'll grab a little piece and show you how it works. But yeah, so what you do is you would, you know, just take a little piece of this, and then you put it on top. Well, first off, you want to put some more flux down here. And actually, I think maybe the jelly flux might be better in this situation, so then it's not running everywhere, it just kind of sticks. But anyway, yeah, you put some jelly flux down here on the pins, and then you put this on top, and then you just kind of heat up on top of the soldering wick where the pins are, and then the solder that's where the bridges are will actually suck up into this wick, and yeah, and that's a good way to remove solder. Yeah, and then another way, if you have this tool, if you don't have the wick, so you remember this that I showed you before, it's hard to see where it's, here I'll have it go across slowly. Do you remember this tool? Anyway, so when you push this button, it will suck up solder, so it's a little tricky one that's so small, it doesn't really work that well, but you can try it. But anyway, you would go along here, you know, heat up the solder, and then you push the button, and then it sucks it up. Yeah, it works better when it's larger, but yeah, you could try to use that if you want. But anyway, that's how you fix if you have any bridges. And yeah, so it's really not the end of the world if you have bridges. Just remember to not add very much solder, and if you need a little bit more, just add a tiny bit more. But anyway, I think at this point we should be good to continue on with the installation, because I think this looks pretty good right now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to connect the 5-volt wire. Basically it's just this cable right here. So what we're going to want to do is just kind of bend this over, just like that. Yeah, if you've gotten this far, you can kind of take a breather, because the rest of this isn't nearly as tricky. But anyway, basically the point is that you want this to be connected to this 5 volts right here. I actually think this ribbon cable is a little shorter than what they're showing on the AliExpress. I wonder if you're supposed to cut it down a little bit, because yeah, you can see there's a bunch of unused area in here, and it'd be easier if it was a little longer. But yeah, I think it'll still go over there okay. We'll just put it just like that. So anyway, let's go ahead and grab a bit more of our flux, and then we're just gonna add a bit more flux onto that 5-volt pin. This is what's going to actually be powering the AliExpress N64 Digital. Okay. Alright, so now this, I am going to use a bit more solder on here, because this pin is quite a bit bigger than the other little pins. Like, I'm not even using the magnifying glass right now. This is significantly easier than the other parts. So actually, this is probably a good time to use these little tweezers here. Just to, yeah, grab this, because you don't want to, everything on here, you know, you want to be delicate, because these wires are really thin. So yeah, you don't want to break them. Yeah, and actually I had a little piece of solder break off too, so I want to move that out of the way. Yeah, right there. Don't want. Yep, it's like kind of like an operation. Don't want to leave anything behind in the body, anything in the motherboard. Okay, there we go. I got it to stick eventually. So yeah, so what I did is I just took a bit of extra solder and put it on this pin first, and then after it was already firmly connected to this pin, then I took the ribbon cable and then heated up the solder again and put the ribbon cable on top. Great. Alright, so now we're going to want to connect this cable to, this is a good pointing tool, so we're going to want to connect it to this second pin right here on this chip. So yeah, I'm going to grab a bit more flux here, put that on there, just like that. Yeah, there's still flux in this pin. Okay, and then I'm going to grab a bit more solder. Oh, that's too much. So these pins are a little bigger than the first ones we did, but they're still not that big. So yeah, just, you know, grab a bit of solder, but not too much. Okay, so yeah, so I'm just going to put a tiny bit on here on this pin, yeah, just like that. Just kind of tin the pin a little bit so it's easier to make that connection. So that's what seemed to work on the other one, so yeah, there we go. some soldering iron here. Alright, so now, use these tweezers again. I'll be careful too not to touch the plastic, like on the controller ports and stuff, and on the reset button. Yeah, the soldering iron will melt that, so yeah, be very careful what you're touching this with. Okay. Alright, so that is connected. And I'm just gonna add a little bit more solder on the top here, just to make sure that it has a good connection. Okay, now it's prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? So I'm gonna put a little bit more flux on here. That's something my mom always would say, now it's prevention is worth a pound of cure. I think that's good advice. Or stitching time saves 9. Oh, see, I heated it up too much and yeah, it didn't have a good connection. I'm actually going to put a bit of solder on here. Oh, that was probably too much. Okay. Took off a little bit more solder. Okay. Alright. Okay, so that feels... Okay, that's pretty much connected there. So now, I'm going to take our multimeter again, continuity setting, and just going to check these adjacent pins to make sure there's no bridges and no extra metal connecting here. Okay, that one's not connected. That one's not. And we'll just do one more just to be sure. Yeah, okay, we're good. Okay, great. It looks like there's a little extra piece of plastic here. I'll just leave it on there, but yeah, that's probably just a manufacturing error. But anyway, yeah, so let's go on to the next part. Okay, so now that we got all that soldered on there, now we're going to start to take a look at the plastic here. So now we're to the part we're going to cut a little piece right here for the mini HDMI port. So yeah, so here's the bottom plastic of the Nintendo 64. And here's the HDMI mod chip. So yeah, so this is just going to fit in just like this. And on the N64Digital from PixelFX, I actually had to cut away some of this plastic here too. But yeah, hopefully we don't have to do that with this. Yeah, it looks like it's actually going down okay. So yeah, so that's good. Cool. So yeah, so now we basically just have to mark where this mini HDMI port is, and then yeah, just cut down a little bit. And yeah, we'll use our files as well here. So yeah, so first, so to start, what we're going to do is, this is actually another time when the X-Acto knife will come in handy, because I'm just going to make a slight little mark here where the edge of the HDMI is, so then I kind of have a general idea of where to start cutting. And yeah, we want it to be pretty close. Now be as tight as possible, but not overly tight, just snug. So yeah, just make two little marks there. Have it go down just a tiny bit. Yeah, just like that. Cool. Alright, so that's roughly where the HDMI port's going to be. Okay, that looks pretty good. So we'll take this out. So now, to get in here, I guess you have several different options. You can either use a razor like I was saying before, or, yeah, let me open these up real quick. Okay, yeah, so there's a few different sizes of the files, but yeah, I'm just going to use this one, so yeah, just kind of file this away. You can see it comes off pretty easy. And then, yeah, once it gets down a little bit farther, because obviously you don't want to go too far, but yeah, once it gets down, then we'll I'll pull this out and then kind of measure to make sure that it's about this length, because you see this will set right here on the plastic. So yeah, just file this down just a little bit. Was this like a 1/4 of an inch or whatever? So I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so I'm going to file this down and then we'll get it to fit in there. Okay, there you go. So yeah, you can see I filed it out there and now it's fitting in there pretty nicely. Yeah, so a good test is you just want to make sure that this is, you know, perfectly flat with this plastic up here. And you can even take the multi-out plastic, and see there, and just kind of push it down slightly, and it shouldn't be much pressure in there. Yeah, ideally not very much gap in between here where the HDMI port is in the plastic. So there is one thing too on this chip I noticed is so you can see back here there's this little foam. And there's this is actually a sticky foam, so if you take this off, then you can actually stick it down here. And I wouldn't do this until you're all done cutting, because yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, I guess it's not terribly sticky, but yeah, it's easier to test before you take that off, because then it's, you know, once it's sticky on there, then it's a little harder to get off. But yeah, let's see if we can get this to go down again. Yeah, it's a little tight of a fit, but I didn't really feel like I need to necessarily cut any of this stuff over here. I guess we'll find out if it, when we test with our multimeter, if we have ground, if we're having ground between the 3.3 volts on the motherboard and ground, if we have a continuity between those, then we might have to think about cutting something here to make it go down a bit farther. But yeah, hopefully this is okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and just, oh, almost forgot. So yeah, before you put the board on, make sure you put this AV multi-out port, whoops, on first, because yeah, this has to go on before. Okay, there we go. So yeah, we're just gonna put this right here on the top. There we go. So yeah, let's see if we can see if it's touching here. Just a visual inspection. It's a little hard to tell, but looks like it might be. Yeah, it looks like it might be touching on one of those chips, but maybe not. Before we plug in the ribbon cable, let's go ahead and test between the 3.3 volt area and ground. Make sure that that's not connecting. So yeah, so here we got our multimeter again, continuity mode. Okay. So yeah, so we're gonna, see, I'm pretty sure it's these points here, and then this is ground. So yeah, it looks like we're not connected right now, so that's good. But whereas this one should be ground, yeah, and you can see that's connected. You can see on this multimeter, the numbers changed to almost 0. So yes, this is ground, so that's obviously connected. And then this is 3.3 volts. And yeah, that's coming up as 302. So yeah, we should be good. Even if there is a short though, the N64 power supply is pretty cool, where it won't just like ruin your system. It'll actually just deactivate the power supply, and then it won't actually short your system. And then you just have to wait like 15 minutes to use the power supply again. Yeah, and then it works fine. Assuming you're using original first party power supply. Using a third party one, no guarantees. Yeah, at least the first party ones, that's the way they've worked. So I am going to try one thing, so I'm going to simulate as if this were being held down by the screws. So I'm just going to test for continuity one more time here. Oh, actually that's even, yeah, now we're getting continuity in the like 792, so that's even less continuity than before. So yeah, so that's good. So yeah, I think we should be okay then right now. Let's see, now we just have to connect the ribbon cable. Okay, and you can see in my phone, or sorry, on my iPad, so these are the instructions in AliExpress. And yeah, it's kind of interesting because they're showing just having the ribbon cable go off here to the side and then bending down to connect. So yeah, you can see here's where the ribbon cable has to go in, and it's facing, like the mouth is facing forward like a plain Nintendo. And so, yeah, so it's, whereas on the N64 Digital, so it wraps around here, and then this, it clips in just like this right here. And so, yeah, it's just a different orientation on this mod kit. So, yeah, I think we will put it down this way. And I was also taking a closer look at it. It looks like this was meant to be cut because, I don't know if it shows up here, but this part actually is cut. It's just that there's a little thin piece of plastic there that probably just didn't get cut in the factory. So I'm actually going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm just going to cut that real quick. So I guess this X-Acto knife is coming in handy after all. See how just get a little incision there. Just be careful not to cut the actual wire. There we go. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to cut that because then that will give us some more leeway. Because in the picture, it actually shows them kind of putting it over to the side of these capacitors. So then it just kind of sits down like this. So I guess that's what we'll try to do. So then this metal, this side of the ribbon cable, the connector that has metal on it, that faces down. You can see this side doesn't have metal. So yeah, we're just going to wrap it around here just like this. Yeah, let's see, let me turn it this way, maybe you can see it a little better. Yeah, and before you put this in, make sure there's a little black door there. So yeah, and then, yes, with that flap up, then we're just going to wrap it around like this, and then you just want to make sure that's nice and centered. So it's just like centered in between the two plastics. And oh, and then also you want to make sure there's like nothing on it, so no like dust or anything. It looks pretty clean, so it's a little tricky to get this in here, but just line that up just right. Yeah, I think that is in all the way. Yeah, and then just make sure it's straight. Okay, now I'm going to just take these tweezers and just slightly press it in there a little bit. You'll even grab part of it. Just very slightly press it in there. Yeah, I don't think this one's gonna. This one doesn't really have much resistance going in, so that looks like it's pretty straight. So now I'm just going to close this little plastic door here, and that'll hold it down. Okay, there we go. Alright, so let's just visually inspect everything, because if everything looks good, then I think we should be ready to test. So yeah, you can see here, as long as that looks pretty even, it's not like this side is higher than the other, then it's probably in there okay. But yeah, it looks like everything's pretty good here. Yeah. Oh, and I was also reading on their instructions. So on the PixelFX Digital, or N64 Digital, it says specifically to measure 3.3 volts and ground, and that's what I was going off of from my memory. However, I was looking on this AliExpress page, and it actually said to measure the continuity between 5 volts and ground. So, I mean, there shouldn't be continuity between that either, but I don't know if they meant to say 3.3 volts, and they accidentally said 5, but or maybe it really is just 5 for this kit. It'd be kind of strange if it's different, because I mean, it's just the chip touching where it's not supposed to. I mean, I guess it could be, but anyway, we'll test both because neither of them should be touching. So yeah, we'll do 3.3 volts first over here. Touch it to this to ground. And yeah, you can see that's not connected. It's almost in the 800s. So yeah, nothing close to 0. And then we'll also do the 5 volts right here. We soldered the cable. Touch that to ground. And yeah, that one's even higher. So yeah, neither of them are touching, so that's good. Yeah, we should be good. So yeah, let's go ahead and take it over to a TV and we'll test it out. So yeah, so we're just going to plug in the jumper pack here. Yeah, and on the AliExpress it says not to leave the Nintendo 64 on more than an hour. Sorry, an hour. No, do not leave your 64 on for an hour in this state. You'll fry it. Yeah, these chips will get really hot and yeah, they'll get damaged. Sorry, it says a minute. However, on the N64Digital instructions, I think it said only like 30 seconds. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it on for, you know, maybe like 10 seconds, as little as I need to, just to get it to, you know, show that something's on. Yeah, make sure you don't put this in backwards, the jumper pack or the expansion pack, whichever one you have. And then I'm going to try out their mini HDMI adapter. Hopefully we can plug in composite at the same time. I'm going to plug the HDMI cord in here. I'm using a monster HDMI cable too. Is it a little overkill? Probably. Do I mind? Not really. Okay, let's see if we can plug in composite at the same time. Oh yeah, they do both fit. Great. Alright, and then we're going to plug in the N64 controller. Okay, I'll plug that in there. Alright, and then you can see here on the instructions. So, it says to press the select A plus B buttons. I'm pretty sure they meant start. Press that for 1 second, and then that will bring up the menu. So, yeah, we'll test that out. So before we plug in the power, I am going to test one more time for continuity between 3.3 volts and then 5 volts and ground. Because when I was doing the N64Digital, after I got everything set up, sometimes I move stuff just enough since it's not all screwed down, and yeah, it would cause the 3.5 and ground to be connected again. So I'm just going to double check one more time. Yeah, that's still coming up good, and then we're going to check with 5 volts and ground. Yep, yeah, so they're not connected, so that's good. Alright, so now I feel confident in connecting the N64 power supply here. And yeah, again, just make sure you don't turn this on more than a few seconds. 30 seconds max. Try to do 15 though. Okay, so we'll test composite first. Alright, so let's see if this turns on. Give it a second here. Yep, there we go. Okay, so composite's working. Awesome. Okay. So now, let's see if something shows up on HDMI 1. Let me just double check. So the button combination is start plus A and B, and then you press the button up and button down buttons to select the adjustment item, and then button left or right to adjust the item. Okay, so those are the C buttons it's talking about. I'm kind of nervous. This is nerve-wracking. Alright. Okay, so far nothing is showing. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, so HDMI is working. Great. Alright, let's push this for... Yep, there we go. Yeah, so now we can see we got the factory reset, video modes. We can change the different colors and stuff. Just leave it on standard. Color mode, aspect ratio. Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's sending a direct signal in. Alright, well anyway. And the sound's working too, so that's good. Okay, great. Alright, we got it working. Alright, so now we just need to put it all back together. Yeah, let's go ahead and start unplugging this stuff. Actually, I should probably unplug the power first, just because I don't want to touch anything. Okay, cool. Alright, so now put the console back together. Let's grab the heatsink. So yeah. Now we'll just, this is going to be possibly the tricky part. I hope this doesn't touch this metal. I'm kind of tempted to just put a little bit of electric tape on here since it's kind of on top of these capacitors. Yeah, maybe I'll do that real quick just to be sure. I'd hate to have it touch the metal and then it's connected to ground. So I'm just going to put a tiny bit of tape on here. over some of these where these open points are, and then over these components as well, these little chips. So yeah, just this probably isn't necessary, but just to be safe, I'm just gonna, then I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, there we go. That should be fine. Okay, cool. And then I'm just gonna fold this under because I don't want to necessarily cover up these capacitors because I don't want to generate extra heat. See, I just cover up the cable a little bit. Yeah, and I think that should be fine. So now we're going to take this top heat sink, and yeah, we're just going to kind of bend this cable over here. Oh, you know what, before I do that, let me just blow this off real quick just to make sure we don't have any dust before I put this heat sink on. Blow in the cartridge slot. Yeah, maybe we should start to, if the game doesn't work, we'll use the blower to blow it out. That might work. Might be a good idea. Okay, so now I guess we can probably blow off this side too, just in case. Okay. Oh, and this was actually something that I forgot to show before. I forgot to do, but so these two little metal feet, let's see if I can get one out to show you. You're going to want to put these in too. So yeah, do you remember these guys? So yeah, so these just go right in here, go in this direction. So there's one that goes on this side. If you remember, we took that out to wash the system. And then same thing on this other side. There's one that goes right here, so you can kind of lift it up a little bit without disturbing the ribbon cable too much. Okay, so we're gonna just test this one more time just to make sure we didn't disturb anything. Okay, so that's not connected. And then we'll test their 5 volts as well. Okay, yep, so we're still good. Alright, great. Alright, so now we're gonna take this, and then I'm just gonna kind of watch this ribbon cable, make sure it's going off kind of to the side of these capacitors. So it just kind of lays flat, because if you try to lay it over these capacitors, it's going to be a kink right here, and yeah, that's not good for anyone. So, but there's not a lot of tension here going off to the side. So yeah, we're just going to do it just like this. All right, here we go. Okay, great. Alright, cool. I'll just kind of push that down just a little bit. Alright, so now we can start to put in the screws. So yeah, I messed up where all these, you saw them before, I had them all in a nice area and organized. Well, I had to move them and I didn't bother to reorganize them, so yeah, now they're just kind of everywhere. Yeah, and then these screws on this side, I'm still going to do them, you know, not too tight, but maybe just even a tad looser, just because that's where this ribbon cable is. I don't want to put too much pressure on it. I mean, realistically, it's probably fine, but yeah. Okay, so yeah, so these three were all these smaller screws, the common screw, or the screw of the people. And then over here we have these longer screws that go in for the cartridge slot. There's another short one, by the way. And now we need to put in this expansion pack. I don't know what it's called, but this little metal thing that goes where the expansion pad is. Then there's these little lips too, so those actually fit in to this plastic. See, I'll just fit it in just like that. Okay, and then this last short screw goes in this side. This side doesn't have a screw coming from the top because that's where the screw from the bottom comes in. See, at the bottom of the case. Alright, and now we just have these 4 silver screws here. So yeah, and just remember all of these, you don't want to screw in too tightly, just tight enough. Okay. Yeah, just so it's not like wiggling everywhere, because obviously you don't want, when you're plugging in the power supply or the AV cables, you don't want to have stuff wiggling. Alright, there's our HDMI. Yeah, it looks pretty nice. I think it turned out pretty good. Okay, alright, that feels pretty tight. Yeah, there you go, look at that. Nice. It's like the N64 had HDMI the whole time. Okay, great. Okay, so we need to do the jumper pack screws, and then also these two self-tightening screws that go on the top. Let's see, let me grab my other screwdriver. Okay. Alright, so yeah, we'll just use this smaller screwdriver again for the expansion pack screws. Nice, yeah, just tight enough but not too tight. Okay, and then these ones are bigger, so we'll use the bigger screwdriver. Alright, that feels pretty solid now. Okay, cool. So now we'll put on the top. Yeah, you can see I did the Japanese mod, so you can play Japanese games. I did that for this system, but I'll put it into a separate video. So yeah, check out, if you're curious to see how I did that, check out a future video I'll do where I'll edit out all this stuff and yeah, just have the Japanese mod. Alright, so now we need to grab the game bit screwdriver. Okay, alright, so here's our game bit screwdriver. Okay, so first we're going to put on these black feet. Okay, these are all the same size, so it doesn't really matter which holes they go in. I'll pause the video while I put these in, but yeah, there's one here, 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 here. So yeah, just 6 of them. So yeah, I'll pause the video while I put these in. Actually, I'll do my special game bit trick. 1, 2, 3. And voila, just like that, all the screws are in. Nice. Cool. Yeah, you can see in there's our ribbon cable for the HDMI mod. Yeah, I think that turned out pretty good there. Yeah, nice. Cool. Yeah, those files are definitely the way to go. Alright, so now let's do one more test with it all put back together. Yeah, I'm kind of really curious to see what the quality is. And then this time, I'm actually going to use this cool blue retro adapter. And I'll be using the wireless Nintendo Switch Online controller. Yeah, check out my other video if you want to see how awesome that thing is. Alright, let's go ahead and test it out. Okay, so we'll do composite again. Let's see here. Alright, don't have a signal right now. We'll try blowing on the game. There we go. Blowing works. Cool. Alright, we got our controller here connected. Alright, so yeah, this is a good baseline. So yeah, I can already kind of tell that it's a little grainy here on composite. Definitely doesn't look the greatest on this TV. Not as good as it does on the CRT for sure. Alright, so anyway, so now we should be able to just switch directly over to HDMI and it should just be working. So we'll go to HDMI 1. Takes a second to connect here. There we go. So yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay, so I actually decided to move the testing into another video. So yeah, stay tuned for that future video. Yes, we'll be testing it more thoroughly, and then also it'll be more like an official review. But yeah, so far, first impressions is it seems pretty cool. We'll have to see if it's as high of quality as the N64 Digital from PixelFX. So far, from what I've seen from the limited menu, it doesn't seem like it will be, but we'll have to, yeah, make sure you're subscribed so you can see how that turns out. And yeah, in the future video, I'll also compare it to the N64 Digital from PixelFX. So yeah, a $40 HDMI solution from AliExpress compared to the $226 solution from PixelFX. So yeah, that'll be an interesting video. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But yeah, overall, yeah, the installation wasn't too bad. Yeah, just make sure you have the right tools. Boy, that sure made a huge difference. I spent way too many hours doing the N64 Digital because I didn't have the right tools. So, but yeah, this time it was a cinch, really. Yeah, just a small fraction of the time I spent on this one. So yeah, I'll leave a link to all the tools that you'll need in the description. And yeah, I think that should do it. So yeah, thanks for watching. And yeah, again, have any comments or whatever, you know, let me know, or any questions or, you know, suggestions, anything. And yeah, I guess we'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.